Hello there. Welcome in hour 3 on this Monday edition of the show. So glad to have you, whether you're listening to the show on air, online, or through the app, or whether you're watching the show on our social media platforms at XTRA Sports 1300. If you're watching, you could always comment on today's topics right there. But there is also another way, and that is to call or text into the show at 719-247-1313. And today and all week, that number will help you win things. Nardo won some Switchbacks tickets for Saturday, and now John scored himself a 4-pack of tickets to Air Force's home opener Saturday against Bucknell. I'm going to be giving away more tickets to both events all week. So keep the number handy. Pays off every once in a while. 719-247-1313. Let's get into the 3 stories that are driving the show. All right, story number 1, a little bit longer of a day than Sean Payton expected for Bo Nix and his starters.
I said 8 to 10, and it's not etched in concrete, right? You forgot that last part of it. So it wasn't etched in concrete. Yeah, you want to score, get out there, but I thought we did some good things.
Supposed to be 8 to 10, but yeah, not etched in concrete, just in case the offense couldn't move the ball, which they could not. Third drive, it all clicked. The Knicks to Sutton connection still very strong. But Sean Payton's plan was to only play his starters a couple of drives. But he wanted to see something good out of them, and the first 2 drives didn't provide that. So he threw them out for a third. Like, I don't think Sean Payton's making the argument he thinks he's making. He kept them out longer than he planned because they weren't doing anything. And that's the second time in as many games, because remember, the starters didn't play week 2 of the preseason. Second time in as many preseason games that the first team offense couldn't get the ball down the field and points on the board when Sean Payton was expecting them to. And that's why I look at this preseason overall as merely an extension of the Broncos team we saw last season. I did not see a team take a step towards being better. Because last year, the Broncos had a problem putting points on the board early. Touchdowns primarily. But they are a team built to play with a lead. So there are a lot of different ways in which the Denver Broncos can be better than they were a year ago. But I put this one right at the top of the list. They got to find a way to start games faster. Get that lead early because it will help, because this defense is outstanding. I mean, it might get to the point if the Broncos lead 10-0, I mean, against a lot of NFL teams, that'd be it. That's a wrap. Bo Nix isn't going to turn over the ball, and the defense is going to come after you. Like, you could see why Sean Payton has high hopes, but the offense has got to hold up their end of the bargain. And far too often last year, it was the defense carrying the offense until they finally got things going. And it's fine for a rookie quarterback or an offense being led by a rookie quarterback, because I don't want to put it all on Bo Nix. Because honestly, I think that the bigger issue this preseason for the Denver Broncos has not been Bo Nix. It's been the offensive line. Like, I know who Bo Nix is going into year 2. I know what he is. I know what he's not. He needs his front to block for him. He needs his receivers to catch the ball. He's not at the point yet where he can overcome deficiencies with this offense. And I said on Friday going into the preseason game that it starts with the protection. And I don't think that protection was infinitely better than it was against San Francisco. I don't want to pile on to Bo Nix, who is in year 2. He's just not going to be this transcendent quarterback. It's still more on the guys around him to help him out, to help him continue to develop, so that when he hits that also too important year 3, that he has learned enough, that he is ready to take that next step. I don't think that the support in front of him was especially great against New Orleans, and I'm not surprised that led to the Broncos not being able to move the football the first 2 drives. But if you were tuning into this preseason to see progress, I don't know what progress you saw. I don't know who you look at and say they were better than the last time we checked in on them. It was an extension of last season. So if the Broncos are really going to take this jump, it's going to be on these first couple of games against the Titans and the Colts to do that. Here's story number 2.
If you ask anybody on the team, would they feel like they belong, you know, in their own eyes. So I feel like I do, but I'm my own player. You know, I think about myself in a high regard, of course. So it's not my decision.
That's Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders talking about his status with the Cleveland Browns after a lackluster, to say the least, performance against the LA Rams. 3 of 6, 14 yards. Had a couple of near turnovers. Took some sacks. It wasn't nearly as good as that first preseason game was for Shedeur. And that should be the story. Okay, where did it go wrong? How can Shedeur improve? If it's that conversation, then it's easy, because he did this in the first preseason game, and I pointed it out. He's got to stop running backwards when he faces pressure. And he's got to stop thinking that with his athleticism, he's going to keep plays alive forever. He's not. You got to if you don't get the ball out of your hands in 2.5 seconds, you're dead. That's just the way that the world works in the NFL. You got to get rid of the ball faster. And Shedeur's problem in college was he held on the ball too long. He got away with it a lot. And that's, a credit to some extent. But in the NFL, that advantage that Shedeur had over everyone else that he went up against, it's not going to be there anymore. He's got to learn to be more decisive and get rid of the ball faster. And that's where, for a rookie quarterback, he can improve. And that should be the conversation around Shedeur, but it's not, is it? It's not, is it? Because he has this cult following that just reason and logic just don't apply to them, because they are so blind to want to see Shedeur succeed that they're willing to throw out things like Kevin Stefanski is sabotaging Shedeur because he didn't play well. We heard this going into week 1. Then Shedeur performed well. And then that talk went away. And then he played poorly. And he's being sabotaged. He's not being sabotaged. The Cleveland Browns have been perpetually whiffing on quarterbacks. They are desperate to get it right. I don't agree with every step they have made in trying to find their next quarterback, but I certainly don't think they're intentionally ruining the careers of any of them. If they're ruining anybody's career, they're just doing it because they are not good at their job. Sabotaging is intentional. That Kevin Stefanski put Shedeur Sanders in a position he knew he would fail so he could prop up Dylan Gabriel. If you believe that, you are delusional on a level that you cannot be reasoned with. He's a rookie. He's not a first-round pick. The Browns don't have to make Shedeur look good all the time. Why can't we just have a conversation about a rookie quarterback that I happen to like, that I think has a future in the NFL, but maybe, gasp, has some things he needs to work on? And those issues were exacerbated by playing with backups. But if you talk to some of these people, Robert Griffin III, Chad Ochocinco, you would think that at all times Shedeur should be with the ones. And Kevin Stefanski should never ask Shedeur to do anything, even in a preseason game, that he might be uncomfortable with. It's like you just want him propped up. You just want him babied. And I would argue that that means you don't believe in Shedeur as much as you say you do. But it's just, it's gotten to the level of insanity. The way, can't we just look at him and say, wasn't very good? Has some clear areas that he needs to improve. And he'll have time, by the way. I'm not moved by any of this. The most apples to apples comparison between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders was preseason 1 to preseason 2, game 2. And guess who looked better? Shedeur did. So I actually think on the whole, this preseason fortified my belief that when things turn bad for Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns, they will turn to Shedeur. But you can't baby him. Because I promise you, those people don't even care what Dylan Gabriel was doing. If Dylan Gabriel was put in the same spot, they wouldn't care one bit that he struggled. They wouldn't be saying Dylan Gabriel got sabotaged. If you're going to be a fanboy for Shedeur, that's fine. But we're not going to take your opinion seriously because we know that you have an agenda. That's fine. A lot of sports talk is for entertainment purposes only. We're not deciding the next pope here, so it's okay. But just don't present it like you're giving an actual football opinion. You're just trying to get your guy, Shedeur Sanders, elevated to where you think he should be. He has some things he's got to work out. And I think he can. I do. I believe in Shedeur Sanders, clearly more than some of these other people do. Kevin Stefanski sabotaging him. Come on now. Let's go to story number 3.
Slip to the far side, Parenteau. Back to the point, near side, one-timer, Barry, shot! His first NHL goal!
Altitude on the call. Tyson Barrie would score 74 more goals as a member of the Colorado Avalanche over the span of 484 games. And today, Tyson Barrie called it a career. And as far as the Avalanche part of his legacy, I think Tyson Barrie occupied the same space that Sam Girard currently occupies. And here's what I mean by that. Back then, any deficiencies that the Avalanche had even though you have to look back and say Tyson Berry was on a very bad roster for much of his Avalanche career. Like, he was a guy like Eric Johnson, like Gabriel Landeskog, that had to endure some trying times. And just as it was getting good, he gets flipped for Nazem Kadri. But Tyson Berry, I remember, was kind of the scapegoat for everything because he wasn't a defensive defenseman. Doesn't that sound like Sam Girard? Tyson Berry is still second on the all-time goal list for an Avs defenseman. He did that very well, and yet it wasn't enough. Tyson Berry got blamed for a lot of stuff with some pretty bad Avs teams. He was a very talented offensive defenseman. And I feel like if he were still on this team, they would pair him with Josh Manson and he'd be talked about like Sam Girard. I don't think Tyson Berry as an Av was appreciated. That most of the teams that Tyson Berry was on were bad. Like, Wayne Gretzky wasn't going to lift up some of those Avs teams. Maybe he would have. I don't want to put through the great one. All things are possible. But even Nathan McKinnon dealt with it, right? But they were able to take him, flip him for Nazem Kadri, who turned out to really be, I don't want to say the missing piece. That's maybe more of a Darren Helm or a Josh Manson, like that last little bit that pushed the Avs over the top. Nazem Kadri was a catalyst for an Avs Stanley Cup. And they wouldn't have gotten Nazem Kadri if Tyson Berry wasn't as talented as he was. So perhaps now with the Avs ending up winning a Stanley Cup, I think this has already started to happen. Certainly. But now that he's calling it a career, yeah, defense wasn't his thing. Now, like, you could say that. I think his plus minus was like 100 minus a lot. I think I have it here. Where is it? Minus 59. It wasn't good. Okay, but that's not what he was asked to do, and that's not what he did best. What he did best was be an offensive defenseman, and he was very good at that. Probably better than anyone not named Cale Makar in the history of the Avs. Is he the second best defenseman the Avs have had? No, I'd put Adam Foote over him. I'd probably put John Michael Lyles. But he's a good player. And I know it couldn't have been possible because he was traded for Nazem Kadri, but like Eric Johnson, he was one of those guys where you'd really like to have seen him win that Stanley Cup because you know that he was trying the best he could to elevate some very bad Avs teams. We here at Extra Sports 1300 appreciate the accomplishments of Tyson Berry. I will say that. And congratulations on a good career. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the three stories that are driving the show. More Drive Time Sports right after this. Our Extra Sports Athlete of the Week is back with the help of our friends at Blackjack Pizza each week, including this one. Go to extrasports1300.com to nominate a deserving prep athlete in Southern Colorado. We'll compile the finalists, have you vote on them. We're a vessel. It's all you. You nominate, you vote, and the winner each week will join me on this radio program. It's the Extra Sports Athlete of the Week, sponsored by Blackjack Pizza. And again, taking nominations right meow at extrasports1300.com. Damari Mathis is the latest Bronco to get waived. Another guy that has been talked about a lot with the Denver Broncos, but just kind of kept getting forced down the depth chart. Right? Jahdae Barron comes in. Everyone moves down a peg except for, obviously Surtain and Moss, but everyone beneath that goes down. And I thought Chris Abrams-Drain had some moments. So Damari Mathis out, not surprising. Still waiting for that first surprise move by the Denver Broncos before tomorrow's 53-man roster is revealed. I think when we see something in the front seven, that's where I think if there is a surprise, it will come from that. Is it a DeAndre Tillman that gets cut? Jordan Jackson, Uruzarike. I think in the front seven is where, if there is a surprise, that's where it's going to be. But nothing out of those position groups yet. So Andrick Estime has been waived. Damari Mathis. And the rest were guys you probably didn't even notice, with all due respect, that they were even playing for the Broncos this preseason. Still got like 79 players, so there's a long way to go. And then we'll see what happens, throughout the league. Will we get any surprise cuts? Nothing yet. Keep you updated. Let's tie in two of today's big stories. Okay, Broncos, just in general, usually one of the most discussed topics on this show. And then the Bengals giving Trey Hendrickson a $14 million raise. I think so much of how you view those two teams is about how you think that week 4 game will go. It's a Monday night. It's in Denver. Who you got? I would say if you are someone who thinks that the Denver Broncos will be better than they were a year ago, I think you have to have that game as a win. And conversely, if you're someone that thinks that the Bengals are going to be better than they were a year ago, I think that game has to be a win for Cincinnati, a good early road win. Now, there are exceptions to every rule, but I really feel like that holds pretty well. How you view that week 4 game in Denver, I think, says a lot about your opinion of those two teams. Now, you can like both to an extent, or you can dislike both to an extent. But I really think if you think the Broncos are going to be better than they were a year ago, you have to have that Monday night game down as a win. And I'll just use myself as an example. I have Cincinnati winning that game. Primetime Monday Night Football. I'll take Burrow over Nix. Now, who knows what happens thereafter? Right there, as we go through every season, the back half of the schedule looks way different by the time we get there. But the first 2 weeks, even with the Broncos' struggles, and it's not to say that it won't, to a degree, cost them. Like, one thing that I'll bring up now, and it will be more of a discussion next week leading up to the game, like, the Titans' defense isn't terrible. So I think in some ways it's the perfect first game for this Broncos team, because yes, it is a game that they absolutely should win. There's really no excuse not to. It's a chance for them to really get after Cam Ward, really rudely welcome him to the NFL. But the Titans' defense is good enough that it could provide some pain points for this Broncos team that I've noticed in the preseason, most notably the offensive line. And I think this could also be, the way you frame this entire preseason for the Denver Broncos. Like, yeah, they failed to impress, but yet you look up and they won all 3 games. Not that the wins matter, but the point is that Denver did enough well throughout this preseason to go 3-0. Not asking anybody to hang a banner, just saying the good clearly outweighed the bad. And I think week 1 could kind of be that way, where you could see some of the Broncos issues, or maybe some of the where the Broncos haven't really improved, hurting them at times, but not in a situation where it would tip the scales to where the Titans could come into Denver and get a week 1 win. So I think it will be a good first game to kind of see, okay, how much of what happened in preseason is just, throw away. It's the preseason. Now the season starts for real and the Broncos are fine. Right? And how much of what we saw in the preseason that failed to impress is real. Because I think the Titans may be able to test the Broncos in a few of those ways. But really, how you view the week 4 Monday night game against Cincinnati, I think will say a lot about what you think about those two teams. And now Trey Hendrickson's in the fold. Like, he's going to play, health permitting. The Bengals played their starters in the preseason to get off to a better start. Right? That's one of the issues with the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't get off to good starts. So getting a win in week 4, as long as they pick up a couple other wins before they get to Denver, winning that game would cap off a fast start to the season, something that has eluded the Cincinnati Bengals in recent years. So if you think that the Bengals are going to win that game in Denver, that means that what Zach Taylor did, starting his starters in the preseason, playing his starters in the preseason, might have worked. Because in years past, you would not bank heavily on the Cincinnati Bengals to beat any decent NFL team the first month of the season. You can help me test out my theory. Which are you high on either one of those teams? And what do you think about the week 4 game? If you're high on the Bengals, I think you have that as a win for them. If you're high on the Broncos, then you have that as a win. 719-24-7. 1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. The Air Force Falcons are back, and so is the Cadet Wing at Falcon Stadium. Experience college football's most unique game day experience. Experience college football's most unique game day atmosphere. Putting that thesaurus to use. Saturday, Bucknell, 1:30 kick for the season opener. Get your tickets at aftickets.com. So Terry McLaurin signs a 3-year deal worth, let me make sure I get these right because it's very close to what Cortland Sutton made, which was a thought that the Cortland Sutton deal would be used as a, kind of a framework for Terry McLaurin's deal. 3-year extension worth over $96 million. Is what Jordan Schultz says. Broncos got Cortland Sutton for an additional year at a few $1 million less than that. Which deal would you rather have? I think that it'd rather be the McLaurin deal. I mean, 4 years of Cortland Sutton. I mean, they're virtually getting paid the same over the course of their contract. It's just Sutton's is extended by a year, and it's good business by the Denver Broncos, but I'm more worried about the now with both of these teams. And I'll pay more money for Terry McLaurin than I will Cortland Sutton. So the Broncos essentially get the extra year of Cortland Sutton, but in 3 years' time, how different is this? Pat Bryant might be the number one wide receiver with the Denver Broncos by then. So the important thing is the Commanders signed up, maybe had to pay more money for a better receiver. And a receiver, by the way, that carries more of the load than Cortland Sutton does. Right? Sean Payne wants to spread it around, wants to get everybody involved, and there's Evan Ingram, the Joker, and they want to run the football. Like Terry McLaurin, they need him. They would be in a really bad spot without him. So pay the guy. You made it to the NFC Championship. Pay the man. And they did. So good work by the Commanders. Yeah, credit to the Denver Broncos for that, but Washington paid more money for a better receiver. It's kind of how it's supposed to work. And in the NFL, 1 additional year, okay. Let's see 3 years from now where everyone is at. But everyone getting their deals done except Dallas. Trey Hendrickson going to get a raise this year. Terry McLaurin signs his deal. Still waiting on Micah Parsons. Yeah, that one wasn't going to get figured out the week before the first week of the season. Next week, maybe. And by the way, I don't even know where the line is. Hammer the Eagles on opening night because it's getting to the point now, how effective will Micah Parsons even be? After he's missed all of training camp. So not surprising that deals are getting done because, there's a deadline coming up, which is week 1, and that gets the wheels greased a little bit. But then there's the Dallas Cowboys, who no amount of wheel greasing is going to make Jerry Jones move any faster than he wants to. And then there's this out of Vegas. Jacoby Myers requested a trade, which it's interesting that he would request a trade now, because I actually feel like the Raiders have competent quarterbacking for the first time in a few years. Like Geno, say what you will about Geno. Geno's better than Aiden O'Connell. So, and Myers has been a solid receiver, not spectacular, but a solid receiver with poor quarterbacking for a couple years now. Raiders get Geno Smith, who's better than what they've had, and now he wants to get traded? This has to be Ashton Genty related, right? Or he asked for a raise, and they're like, yeah, no, we're not restructuring your contract. But it might be Ashton Genty related, right? Got to prove that you made the right selection. You took Ashton Genty high enough. You better make it work in year one. It's more of a running team, and Jacoby Myers is like, yeah, my quarterback's better, but how much is he going to be allowed to throw it? But that's not even the point of this. What I love is how, I think it was through Tom Pelissero, the Raiders kind of clapped back at him, because the tweet says the Raiders citing, oh, I got it. I got to pull this up and actually give it its. This is from Ian Rappaport. The team, citing his value, said they had no plans to do so. I guess you could read that as he's too important to what they do. The first time I read it, I thought it was that they couldn't get anything for him. No, never mind. I read that wrong. Raiders like Jacoby Myers. And apparently the two sides were trying to work out a deal and couldn't. And then Myers is like, I want out. But this is the Raiders in 2025. They're not getting rid of anybody. They want to be the absolute best that they can be. Even if you offer up draft picks for the future and all that, they don't care. They are all in on this year. And you could scoff at that because they're still the fourth best team in the division, but you could also argue that while Kansas City is Kansas City, and the Chargers and Broncos, the arrow is pointing up in year two of year two of Jim Harbaugh and year three of Sean Payton, that it would behoove the Raiders to zig while everyone else is zagging and tank, or at least shed veteran players for draft capital. I won't call it the T word, but shouldn't they be taking a different route instead of trying to say, hey, we're going to compete. We're going to get Pete Carroll. We're going to get Geno Smith. We're going to draft a running back early in the draft. It really doesn't make much sense what the Raiders are doing when you compare it to the rest of the division. But the Raiders are just in this mode where they're going to win as many games as they can. They're not sacrificing anything for the future. And that is the definition of all in. They want to get as many wins out of this year as possible. So they're not trading Myers. They're going to bring in Geno. They're going to bring in Pete Carroll, who is the age of a coach that doesn't fit the Raiders timeline, because they just want to. It's just win as much as you can this year, baby. That's the new slogan. They should be rebuilding, but they're not. See if it works out for them. But my apologies to Jacoby Myers. Raiders were not dissing him. They were saying his value to us, not his value or lack thereof on the open market. Oh, we're almost there, aren't we? College football owns this weekend. It will be a far better weekend than this past one for college football. This is not. And I said this. Let's either go all in and everyone plays week 0, and then you would get 2 weekends, by the way, where you would own the football calendar. Instead, there weren't enough good games in week 0 to pry you away from NFL preseason football. Week 1 is going to be amazing, and then the NFL takes over. So either let's do everything week 1 or everything week 0. I got to say that the appetizer was not what I hoped it would be when it came to college football this weekend. But this weekend's going to be amazing. So good. Texas, Ohio State, Air Force, CU, CSU, all getting their seasons underway. So it'll help us pass the time till the NFL begins. That's for sure. Before I go, let's talk about taking back control. I'm talking about your life. If you've been feeling low on energy, struggling with motivation, or just not performing like you used to, it could be low testosterone. Center Gen X and Low T Center have helped thousands of men feel better, think clearer, and live stronger. It all starts with a quick test at the clinic, results in about 20 minutes. And then from there, you could choose the treatment plan that works best for you, whether that is in clinic or even at home. Their team will guide you through every step, and their mobile app makes follow-ups and reminders simple. Don't wait another day to feel like yourself again. Visit fixmylowt.com and book your appointment now. That's fixmylowt.com. Your health, your energy, your life, take it all back with Low T Center. It's been my pleasure to serve you. Appreciate the interaction. Congrats to our ticket winners. We'll be giving away many more tickets tomorrow at 3 right here on Extra Sports 1300.